My name is Sean Good. The most important thing to know is that I'm married to the most amazing woman in the world. I have two teenage children, 19 and 14. One's a college sophomore, the other one's a high school freshman. And I absolutely believe that all young people are possibilities to be developed and not problems to be solved. What's really special about this convening is Gabe, who isn't here, he's a police chief, and I'm sort of an abolitionist, right? So we have like this really cool partnership between a police chief and an abolitionist. And I also believe the only way you can transform the system is by partnering with the system to teach them how to do less harm. I believe that a truly restorative approach engages those that have caused harm to bring them along the continuum so they cause less harm and do right by all of us. And that's what I'm most excited about, as Gabe and I get to co-chair this thing that Rebecca's duped us into, because that's what Rebecca does. Not only is she a brilliant researcher, she's highly manipulative too. And so Gabe and I have both said yes to this situation, and you said yes to joining us in this space. And I have my notes over here, so I'm gonna look over here at the notes to make sure I don't miss any of the bullets that Rebecca put together, well-intentioned. So
Sean,
our time together.
Sean, I'm just gonna jump in because Gabe has joined us.
Yes.
We'll have him introduce himself. Thank you.
I'm sorry, man.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
Technical difficulties here, but I'm on. And Sean, I thank you for being here and covering for me for a few minutes. And folks, I'm sorry for my tardiness. I hope you can all hear me. I am Gabe Rodriguez. I am the chief of police in Camden County, which is located in New Jersey. I'm the chief of Camden City, a city that I was born and raised in, a city that I admire and love. I was a kid out of poverty. I grew up in the projects in East Camden neighborhood, which was very challenging. Camden City has been notoriously known for one of the most dangerous cities in the country and amongst the poorest ones as well. And that really hasn't changed, but the dangerous side has. We created a new police department in 2013 when the old one, the one that was corrupt and broken, fell apart. And I was one of those first detectives involved in the creation of that new agency. And the great part of that was we were able to bring a change, not only through better equipment, younger officers, but through the change of culture in the agency overall, putting people first, creating relationships. And it's really, gained a lot of attention. That's not the purpose of us doing what we do, is because we want to work with the people to show that, they're the people we serve. We're peace officers. We're also often have this type of law enforcement, which is wrong, but because we do so much more, and that's just a very small part of what we do. But being peace officers and being here, people, and I'm the people's chief.
Gabe, is that people's chief? I like being John Cena. Is that what it is? Are you like a Camden John Cena? Is that what you are?
Yeah, right. John Cena. Yep. So I'm excited about this. This is something, I have two young daughters who they think of me as the John Cena you just mentioned, Sean, right? I always say I have 77,000 family members. That's the size of Camden here. And I try to do as much I can for the youth who are our future. And I'm always interested in change and working with different people and different groups to really improve our system overall and how we can help people more and do better. We are in a learning police department where we are better today than we were yesterday. And we want to be better tomorrow than we are today. And I'm super excited when Rebecca reached out to me, and honored to be part of this. And again, to have such a great co-chair, Sean, with his vast experience and everything he's done. And we're looking forward to getting this thing started and hopefully get some good questions.
Well, thank you, Gabe, for coming in right on time. I was about to just jump into the thing because you weren't here, but I know why you were late, because you were getting fancy. You're putting on the uniform and everything, and you look freshly shaved and everything.
Thank you, man.
Got right
I get pretty, man. Our first day didn't go so well.
I know, man. I'm just saying, I threw on the hoodie and the hat. I thought we were good to go. If I knew we were dressing up, I would have worn the Choose 180 polo or something, but it's fine. Like next time we got to exchange notes, okay? Let's get to topic. So Gabe and I are going to be co-chairing a work group. And the objective of the work group is to review successful and promising practices that provide, that's a lot of alliteration in there. There's successful and promising practices that provide people with appropriate medical, social service, and community resources instead of or in addition to police, EMS, fire response. whether that's tele-response, in-person responses. Responses may vary. That's the heart of what it is that Gabe and I are going to be doing on this journey together. And Gabe, can you just share briefly why you think it's important for us to be co-laboring to bring people together to have this conversation?
Well, just as it's not just your personality, of course, but it's such an important topic, transforming 911. I can tell you, based on my experience, some of the calls I've been on as a young officer, some of the calls I've been on as a detective, as a supervisor, some of the calls I still hear our officers responding to, a lot of them should not have any kind of police response. I've gotten calls to, kids that don't want to get dressed for school in the morning. My first call when I was 19 years old was a domestic between two husband and wife that had been married for 30 years. I'm a 19-year-old kid in this situation trying to give advice when I have no life experience to some of these people that just need to see a counselor. A lot of the medical calls, a lot of the people that are suffering from mental health issues that we now insert ourselves in, and we see all different. It can be substance abuse, just schizophrenia, or it can be autism, which are some of the most challenging ones. And they see someone showing up in a uniform, and it just escalates the situation, and it puts that young officer in a very bad position. And sometimes the outcomes aren't what we want them to be. So really, I'm a strong believer that traditional ways of doing things aren't always the right way of doing things. We have to think outside the box, really look at the system in different ways and get different perspectives from the people that are calling us, that we don't want them to be afraid of the police officers that are responding, really listening and hearing from you. I've been a 911 caller, and I know that I'm hoping for the right police officer or the right assistance to get there and help me and treat me like a true victim, regardless of whatever the situation is, because officers respond to shootings, parking complaints, cats in trees, different calls in different moments, but the response is not always the right response. The traditional ways, you call 911, that dispatcher, who they do a phenomenal job, just send a police officer and then we'll figure it out. We have to fix that system.
Yeah, Gabe, thank you for that. And similarly, but different, just the lens that I come from, I grew up in a household with two parents that suffered from mental health issues. My father was schizophrenic and my mother suffered from dissociative identity disorder. And furthermore, my brother at the age of 13 served juvenile life in our community, and he was locked up until he was a 21-year-old, right? So I have so much toxic orientation with 911. It triggers me, just the notion of it, the idea of it, and like the idea of activating 911 is deeply problematic, because what I've seen happen more often than not is it elicits a response that causes more harm and further intensifies the trauma and doesn't actually invite people on a healing journey, right? And I have a ton of respect for folks who serve in law enforcement, and I know it's ridiculous to ask them to do all the things all the time, right? I have a friend of mine, good friend of mine. She's one of the leading gastroenterologists in our community. She's a Black woman named Rachel Isaka. You should Google her. She's brilliant, right? Black woman, gastroenterologist, brilliant. Celebrate. So, in that, when I'm not feeling well, sometimes I have the temptation to want to call Rachel and be like, "Hey, I got this thing going on. Can you diagnose it for me?" Because I'll Google WebMD. And then I'll feel like I'm gonna die, because WebMD gives you all the worst case scenarios. I woke up with a hangnail one day and realized that it was cancerous. You know what I mean? So you gotta be really careful on your Google searches. You always wanna have a phone a friend. But Rachel is a gastroenterologist. She should not be helping me out with my hangnail. That is a waste of her expertise. When I got some stomach issues, holla. But otherwise, I should probably activate the appropriate resource. And that's how I feel about 911. We have been historically inundated with this idea that 911 is somehow going to activate the right person to show up and meet our need. I remember when the police were called on me when I was about 13 years old. I used to have really bad anger management issues. I would punch holes in walls, kick holes in doors. I was like that kid on Maury Povich, right? Or Dr. Phil, even better yet now, right? Where you're like, what? I can't do a Dr. Phil accent in a short period. If you could picture it, I'd be the kid on stage. And I remember having a temper tantrum and the police getting called because they thought my mother was doing something to me. They showed up to the house and it was me. In that moment, I did not need a police officer in my life. I needed a therapist, right? I needed a friend. I needed someone who was going to hear what was really going on. Now, fortunately for me, I had an officer that helped de-escalate the situation and gave me a chance to like commit to a new direction, head back upstairs or leave with him in the car. But that carrot and the stick only caused more trauma unintentionally, even though it was the beginning of a healing journey, right? And so we are fully persuaded that there needs to be alternative, but that not the brilliant professorial minds are the ones to determine what those alternatives should be, but folks with lived experience that have had their hands and feet not on the ground just in service, but have been impacted by, should be a part of a collective that's dreaming up what's possible. And far too often, we bring practitioners into this space that have been educated about what could be, but haven't had the lived experience of what has been. And so we think that a co-laboring of different folks from different backgrounds could be the possibility that opens up our eyes in the horizon to dream this thing up and live it out together. So we have a couple questions that we want to bring to you. And I'm really affirmed by all the people who are dropping emails in the chat box and say you want to be a part of this special group that Gabe and I are creating. I want you to like keep that same enthusiasm when the email goes out, because sometimes folks are like, yeah, I want to do that. I want to do that. Then the email comes and you're like, oh, my calendar says I can't do that. So just keep that enthusiasm when the email comes out. So if you got a yes today, let it be a yes tomorrow, and then let's build. But so we got a couple questions. And the first question is, if 911 centered community and community power and decision making, what would that look like? Now, if you could type your responses, I know you got your emails in there because you want to get connected, but if you could type your responses to this question that's up there on the screen, if 911 centered community and community power and decision making, what would that look like? Words or short phrases? That would be dope. On your marks, get set. Look at that.
You can also click on the Mentimeter that Madge put in the bar, and then we'll have a word cloud appear.
Rebecca, thank you for saying that. I could not pronounce that word. In fact, I didn't know what it was until I saw it in the text, and then I was going to Google it, but I was too late. Meant to meter. That's a lot of claps. Meant to meter. Gabe, what are some of the reflections you have for the things that you're seeing pop up?
I mean, inclusiveness, I think sustainability is huge. It's something I think about all the time. You know, we don't have to kind of figure out what the short-term goals are. We need long-term solutions to some of these challenges that we've been seeing and ignoring for so long, but the results are super impactful. It damages relationships between some of the responders and the people that are calling, because I didn't call, you know, I can't tell you how many times I didn't call for a police officer to come here. I called because my grandmother was talking and she hears somebody in the attic and she needs to go to the hospital. Well, we're the ones transporting. I've had officers responding and delivering babies, and we're not medical professionals at all. And I'll be the first one to admit, I don't know a lot. What I do know is police work and crime prevention. But when you're calling me out because, you know, there's an issue with your electrical system when there's not, and it's obviously that you have some kind of mental health challenges or issues that need to be dealt with, I'm not that person to come there. But now I'm there, and now you want to fight me. Now you want to reach for an edge weapon, and now everything just escalates. And now how do I get out of this dangerous situation? I love some of these thoughtful. I just true safety. I would love for us, Sean and I, to work with this group and really to get out of it, you know, a sense of the people. This is about the people and their well-being and how 911 can be transformed to better suit their needs and help them. Healing, sustainability, inclusive. I mean, all these racial equality. You know, I work in a city that I was raised in. It's minority. It's 51% Hispanic, 49% African American. And you know, the reason I'm so proud to be the chief of police, because I reflect our people, and I get calls, and I have visitors up in the office, and I can really relate to our people, and they trust me because I look like them. I come and I understand their challenges. When you're talking to someone on 911, you don't know who you're talking to. Most of the time when I would call, you know, I would be told to hold because they had to dispatch me to another town. I'm like, well, I'm having a true emergency. Can you hurry up? They want your name first and your social security. I'm like, hold on, I can give you that afterwards. Can you just send this, you know, a medical bus, right? An EMS or somebody to help me out. My mom's having a heart attack, right? And then the police show up, and then you're frustrated, and this is just, some of these words really are things that I've been thinking about as I, was invited to take part of this journey.
Yeah, Gabe, we're gonna that's powerful. We're gonna pivot to the next question because we got 10 minutes, and I'm a time hawk, right, when it comes to this stuff. And I want to make sure we get as much input as possible in the time and space that we have with each other. So you can click on the Rebecca, what is it again? The Mama Say Mama Sa Mama Kusa? Was it?
I think Mentimeter.
Mentimeter. Thank you. Phonetically for spelling out for me. I appreciate it. You can click on the Mentimeter link again for this one. But the question is, when you think about alternatives to first responders, what are the most important aspects to focus on? And again, you can click on the Mentimeter or you can drop it in the chat.
This is really such a great question because this is one I think about a lot. And, again, as a chief of police, I don't always have the answer because I sometimes see it one-sided.
Always, sometimes.
Sometimes, but it's great. It's definitely a great question, and I mean, it's something that I try to talk to some of the folks around here where I'm from about. I talk to our dispatchers and try to really get feedback from them. And Rebecca and I have visited our dispatch center, and there's some great people. They do great work. They just we just need to change the direction a little bit, I believe.
Yeah, can everybody else see it? Oh, there we go. That's what I was missing. Thank you so much. Well-being may not be the best match. Patient caller outcome, expand community skills. Yes. Yes. I love that one. I'm just going to lie. I feel like I want to shout and offer a halle on that one. Expanding community skills. Parents, friends, partners, organizers are often the first responders before it escalates to crisis. We need to develop skills within our community before it escalates to a 911 call. Absolutely. We so often invest in systemic responses and neglect community-based alternatives that aren't programmatic, right? Programming is just a stopgap. Programming is cool, but it's only there to pause the harm from happening while we fix the harm from reoccurring. But when it's embedded and you begin to change the material conditions of the neighborhoods and the folks are equipped that are neighbors that can show up on site and respond appropriately and de-escalate, you can alleviate some of the need for 911 responses altogether. Focus on prevention instead of intervention. Postvention, yes. Respond to actual community need and utilize other community resources already doing the work. Mental health, suicide prevention. It's empowerment. Empowerment of the first responder, not field responder, to use their judgment to ask questions and accurately determine what kind of help is needed. Appropriate response, connect to homeless services, mental health. So you can see this reoccurring theme of appropriate responses, folks who are most proximate to what's happening, being equipped to respond, making sure that there's ways to activate indigenous folks to the space that may already have an established relationship to be transformative in those moments. Emphasis on prevention. I see that Trelawna dropped that in there. Prevention is the key. All these are a couple more things. Keep posting, keep chatting. What else we got for it, family? Come on. Y'all stop. We still got 87 people in this room. Everybody got an opinion. Gabe, anything else resonate for you? I wish I could see the rest of them, but we didn't scroll past the good stuff. There we go.
I did see some stuff, that we scrolled past for de-escalation. That's something that our agency has really focused on in the last few years, partnering with the Police Executive Research Forum, creating a new way of responding to critical incidents, slowing things down, using time as a tactic, spacing yourself between you and someone who seems to be having some kind of mental breakdown so you can assess the situation and call the appropriate resources. Yeah. The challenge is, because we're doing it here in Kansas City and we receive thousands and thousands of 911 calls, we're a very busy city. Some towns don't receive as many calls. Some towns don't get as much training. What we do here in New Jersey may be different from state to state. And I think, what I'm so excited about and that we can get out of this group is really transforming 911 across the board, so that everyone's seeing response and again, some great chat here.
I want to call out Timothy. What number do I call if the blue folks are beating a black and blue? Halle, yes. Right, who polices the police, and what do you do to get beyond that blue wall, right, where you can actually have some real accountability, and not just post in reaction to, but in real time, right? Am I out here in Seattle, Washington area? I sit on a community task force where I review all use of force video from our local law enforcement agency, and then critique it, offer feedback, and like hold folks accountable. But that's after the fact. That's not in real time. And it's like quarterly. So at times it could be months later. Like what do we do in real time to be able to respond in moments like that? Another great point, make sure the community organizations have the capacity to meet the needs. This is a model that we begin to implement in our region, where we've actually got our county to divest from juvenile court and invest in community-based solutions, where we've created a pathway to alleviate the need of juvenile court for upwards of 800 young people over the course of a calendar year. And now the resources are directly in community instead of in a courtroom, right? Those dollars are going somewhere. You put your money where your mouth is, right? So how do we take those taxpayer dollars and make sure folks in community-based organizations can get resources like county and city employees do? I mean, imagine a world where you can employ folks with lived experience and give them the same type of retirement and pension that other first responders get, right? I'm just dreaming out loud for a bit, thinking about what equity could look like if we really, really believe that community could do the work that we say they can do. What about, go ahead, I'm sorry, Gabe. I was getting on my soapbox for a minute.
No, that's all right. Just because I'm seeing some of the things that are popping up in the chat, and I'm reading. So I just, I know you guys mentioned the blue wall of silence and how do you get, across that. Well, I can tell you, since I become chief, and many of the chiefs that were here before me, that blue wall doesn't exist in this agency. And it's because of the people we serve. We've listened. I can tell you, and I want to just go back for a second to what happened in 2020 with the murder of George Floyd. I was sickened by it. As I'm sure everyone on this Zoom can attest, I felt the same feeling you felt. What I do here in this uniform I wear is a service to the people. The reason I wear this is not who I am. I'm a Latino man, and I get nervous when I get police cars behind me. I've been treated very bad by other police officers when I've been pulled over or stopped coming out of a barbershop just because I'm wearing a hoodie. And I don't look like this when I'm off duty. I promise you, I look much different. And I've been profiled and stopped. And I felt, before I was a police officer, I've been, some bad experiences with police officers. And that's why I became a police officer, because I want to be part of that change. And that's why I get excited to be part of this platform that I'm part of now with you all, and to hear some of the pain and some of the things that each of you are saying. And I love hearing it. And I really want to thank you all for sharing those true comments, heartfelt comments.
Yeah, and I know we're getting close to time. Before that clock ticks up, it says you have 1 minute left, because I know it's like inevitable, right? I want to affirm like the tension that Gabe, you have the opportunity to stand in as we critique the very mechanism that functionally makes your work necessary, right? And begin to take apart some of the responses, and that may cause you a little bit of stress and strain. But I appreciate your willingness to sit in the tension, particularly next to somebody who absolutely, oh man, Candace, I'm sorry. If I would have saw the whole time, but it's slow. Thank you for doing what it is that you do. We're about to come together in a large group again. Thank you so much for choosing this. All 88 of y'all. I think we got up to 89. Somebody must have not liked something I said. It's fine. God bless you. I'm kidding. But thank you so much for tapping in. Please drop your email in the box so we can follow up. You can join our group. We'd like to make sure that if there's folks who need to be a part of this space, that they get brought into this group too, particularly folks with lived experience, if they're not tapped into this Zoom call because of whatever barrier it may have been for them to engage in this session today. This work has to be done by people who feel it, people who will benefit from it, people who have experienced it, people who have been traumatized for it. And there are resources to be able to help offset their brilliance and resource their brilliance in a way that's personally meaningful and honoring. So just want to put that out there. Thank you. We appreciate y'all. I think, Gabe, we might have landed the planes a little bit early, which is always better, right? So y'all can tap back into the main space, go use the bathroom, do what it is you got to do, right? Make sure you sing happy birthday twice when you wash your hand, use soap and water. Those are all really important tactics. Gabe, any final words? Rebecca?
I just want to echo everything Sean said. He took a lot of my words. We had a conversation before this. He stole a lot of my words, but you guys have been great. This is definitely an exciting journey. And I told Sean, early on that I can feel his passion, and it mirrors mine. And that's why I think we're gonna get some great things out of this, and I wish we did have more time because there's so much more we can sit here and talk about for hours, if not days. So I'm really looking forward to the next session, and hopefully we can get as many of you on board with that. And thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you all.